right, guys, how's it going? Welcome back to All for United, and ding dong, the Europa Super League, mate. I don't even drink and I feel drunk. The Super League's dead. We're all happy. Clubs are pulling out left, right, and centre. CEOs are just dropping like flies at the minute. Who knows what's going on? But it looks like football has won. And you know what? It's time for celebration. Everyone liked the video. If you're absolutely buzzing that the Super League is dead, well, I hope it's dead anyway. We don't know if it's completely gone because you know what? There's nothing to rule out another big billionaire coming in and going, you know what, I'll pick up where they left off. But today is a win for football. And I think today we showed that with the backlash, which wasn't just, we saw years ago when the Glazers took over Manchester United that there was violence, there was criminal damage. There was none of that this time. It was protest done the right way. It was done with a level of organisation that brought fans together from several clubs. There was a united front, both on social media and in person. And we showed today that football can win. We do have a certain power in this country. Football fans have a certain presence within this country to make a difference. And I think we showed that today and over the last couple of days. And don't get me wrong, the last couple of days have been absolutely mental for the world of football. Things have just been turned upside down. And then all of a sudden they turn the right way around again. We've just seen Ed Woodward resign as Manchester United's vice chairman and CEO. That's huge in itself. There's rumours now that one club out of the Super League teams that will be up for sale in the coming days. That could be anyone. That could be Liverpool. It could be Manchester United. It could be Arsenal even. I don't know who it could be. That's up for discussion, and I'm sure we will discuss that. We even had the Tories come and defend us. Now that's when you know something's gone wrong. It was an absolutely mental last couple of days, and we saw players, managers, left, right, and centre coming out and saying different things. It's so much to process. And that means we've got to get the perspectives of every club involved. And I've tried to round up as many clubs as possible. There'll be more coming on. But at the minute, I'm going to bring on a fan from Real Madrid, from Arsenal, and from Liverpool. And they're all going to join me right now. Jack, Harold, and Tom, how are you all doing? Hope you're all good. Jack, I'm going to come to you first because when the story first came out and Gary Neville was making his rant, it was Manchester United and Liverpool that shocked everyone the most. Where are you standing on this right now? What are your immediate reactions?
Well, right now, mate, I'm buzzing because it's been a difficult couple of days. I've spoken a lot on different channels. I felt like I'd lost my football club. I really had. The decision went against everything that us supporters stand for, the whole club stands for. And, the slogan of the past, this means more unity is strength. Obviously, the main one, you'll never walk alone. It felt like lies. And there's still a long way to go. I'm realising that, this is a big decision. It's a big, big day for football and a step in the right direction. Football fans have realised we still have a voice. We are still so important to this game and we have control still, but there is so much still to do. FSG, for me, this was the final straw for them. I want them gone, as I'm sure you do, Karthik, with the Glazers, and I'm sure you're over the moon with the Woodward news. But none of this poison is going to get out of football until all these billionaire businessmen who think they can do what they want go. I think you summed it up perfectly there, Karthik. Even with the Tories getting involved today, the government, the royal family saying that they'll do everything they can to stop it. That shows just how ludicrous it was with what Florentino Perez suggested and what the Glazers, the Fenway Sports Group, and all the other Premier League clubs that backed it have been doing in the last few days. But for me, it's a big step in the right direction, I say. And we've still got a long way to go. There are still many issues in football, but this should show football fans across the world today that we have a voice and we can stand up to anything in football and get our own way still. It's great news.
And you know what? He summed it up perfectly. There is still so much left to do. All of these owners, all of the clubs that were involved in the forming of the Super League, all of their owners, they have to go as well. And Harold, I'll come to you next because you were very active in the chat before we came on, saying that you were going to be drinking out of sadness today. How quickly is that flipped for you right now?
Quite quickly, yeah, it has. It's a happy drink now for sure. I was actually proper depressed last night. Just felt that everything was basically in ruins. I was thinking about the game tomorrow against small Spanish team Cadiz. Thinking about the game and wondering, should we even play it? Is it worth anything? If we win the league this year, I mean, does it even matter? And playing Chelsea in the semi-finals, does that even mean anything? So for me, it felt like losing like my main hobby, main interest, my passion in life, basically. So switching on Twitter today, and the dominoes started falling. Couldn't be happier. Just celebrating now, really. It feels like it's dead, finally. Dead on arrival, actually.
Dead on arrival. That's such a great way to put it. And I
Yeah.
saw a tweet. I saw a tweet earlier that said it made me chuckle. Actually, it said, "I'm a big fan of the Super League's knockout stage format." And it's just because everyone is dropping out, and I was like, that's a great way
Yeah.
to put it. I've tried to make myself not make this joke, but I'm going to make it anyway. Tom, you must be gutted because this was your only chance at Europe, wasn't it?
Oh, I deserve that. I'll take it, mate. I'll take it. I said to a lot of my friends that, I mean, Arsenal have been the butt of the joke a lot. I mean, I can understand why the Spurs fan that coming on is a little bit late, because how they even wangled their way into the competition in the first place is an achievement in itself. I say that while he's not here. But honestly, from an Arsenal perspective, I don't even think of it as an Arsenal perspective, because what this has taught us, I feel, over the last kind of 48 hours is that this is a collective, not fans of each individual club, but this is about fans of football, really kind of being victorious and succeeding over the ultimate selfish greed of the ownership of these clubs, the individuals. It's frustrated me a little bit when you see statements come out and they call them like clubs, like Everton's statement, which I thought was really good, describing all of these teams as clubs. When people think of themselves as the club, I think of myself as very connected to Arsenal as a fan. And it was hard to see the word club used in a lot of these statements, especially considering the fact that I feel that this is purely done by those at the very, very top, the owners, the chairmen, etc. And I think a lot of Arsenal, United, Spurs, City, Real Madrid, every fan that's been part of this, is all of those fans have received quite a bit of stick. And I think that's unwarranted in some cases, because it wasn't us that did this. We didn't want this. We didn't want this to happen. And we are just as elated that this is not happening, believe me. As you guys were talking about, there's a lot that still needs to happen. I think arguably, even coming from the point of view of as a fan of one of these clubs, there should be sanctions arguably handed to the sides, because this can't be allowed to happen again. And although I think there's a big discussion to be had over the argument of this is bad guys against bad guys, and UEFA and FIFA are no saints, there needs to be a discussion about that for sure. But where this was going, I think most people will agree it was a much worse and arguably more evil situation than we currently found ourselves in.
Jack, what do you think that sanction should be? Because the Premier League were clear this morning in that they would welcome the clubs back, but they wouldn't welcome the executives and the people that made these decisions. Now, do you expect there to be a sanction, number one? And number two, what should it be?
There has to be a sanction. There does, because, the fact that the clubs were able to do this in the first place, and the fact they thought they could get away with doing something like this in the first place, they have to be punished. They really do. I said the clubs there. I think, but it's not the clubs, and it's important we remember that. It shouldn't be held accountable against Liverpool, against Manchester United, against Real Madrid, against all the teams involved, Arsenal, Spurs. It's not the clubs. They've had their names run through all kinds of problems and all kinds of debts by the billionaire owners that are running the football club. There's been a lot of talk over the last 48 hours. Boris Johnson's come out and said that they'll find ways to make sure this doesn't happen again. The Premier League too. Talk of us implementing the 50+1 German model. As the German clubs, I thought, handled this really, really well. We saw the strong Dortmund statement straight away. They weren't bothered about being left behind. For them, it's always been fans first. And listen, we are fans of English clubs. We're fans of the Premier League. The best club in the world. And the reason for that is the competitiveness, and to have a proposal to get rid of the competitiveness from the best sport in the world that brings so many different people together from a working class background, to try and take it away from that. is an absolute disgrace, and these billionaire businessmen should absolutely have the book thrown at them. And as I said to you, Karthik, at the start of this, let's not forget, this is a show where I will rant and I will rave about FSG, and you will about the Glazers too. And I'm sure, there'll be a lot of talk about Florentino Perez, Agnelli, the Juventus chairman, Kroenke of Arsenal, who they've been asking to get rid of for years. Ed Woodward, who's finally walked after pressure from Manchester United fans for years. But what we need to remember as well is it's not just these people. The billionaires involved behind Sky, behind BT. BT Sport took away, of course, the Champions League from terrestrial television, where it was free and available to loads of people. Listen, Florentino Perez spoke so much shit the other night when he came forward and tried to explain his decision. But he did say, that people aren't as interested as they used to be in football. And why is that? Because it's going away from its roots. And it's important now that we know for sure that us fans still have our say, that we can still come together and we can still stop these greedy, and there's so many different ways of describing these businessmen that are trying to take the game away from us, but we still have control at the minute, and there is still so much we need to do to get our game back, and that is what I think the message should be tonight.
They are greedy cunts. I'll say it. Sack me, Ben. Anyway, Perez. Then I want to talk about him because what he said was and obviously there's no better person to ask than Harold, obviously, but what he said clearly showed to me just how out of touch these people are, because I think one of the lines was that, 16 to 24-year-olds aren't interested in football anymore, and yet that's just not true. And if it is true, it's because of people like him. And the entire statement, speech, whatever you want to call it, it just didn't make sense to me, and it showed to me just what was going wrong with the game. Now, Harold, he represents your club, so seeing that must have been a killer for you. And what do you think about him, both as a person and also as a representative of your club?
Well, I think it's kind of difficult to say, really, because in many ways I do appreciate what he's done to this club. I think he has transformed this club to becoming perhaps the biggest club in the world, and also the biggest brand in my ways. And we have to compete against big clubs with private owners, with shareholders. You have investments coming in from the Middle East. You have even Russian oligarchs, Roman Abramovich and American owners. And Real Madrid, it's a member-owned club. You have to remember that. We do not have any private investors. So in many ways, he has done a lot of good things. But I mean, it's about legacy. It's basically about legacy, because Florentino Perez, he's done a lot of good things. Now, he's built this club. They won the titles. He's got this huge renovation of Santiago Bernabeu, the stadium, which cost about 500 million. And then he lacks one thing, and that is basically to form an organization to create a new league. You have to remember that the other huge president in this club's history was Santiago Bernabeu Yeste, the president from the 1950s. He did all these things. He created basically the Champions League, the Europa Cup. Now you have Florentino Perez, who wants to do basically the same, in my opinion. But he's completely missed the mark. And I just want to read one quote from Santiago Bernabeu Yeste, the huge president from the 50s and the 60s. He said, "The Real Madrid shirt is white. It can stain of mud, sweat, and even of blood, but never of shame." And I think that pretty much sums it up where Florentino Perez has missed the mark now. We feel ashamed right now. I feel ashamed. I didn't want to wear my, face cover mask when going to the store last night. It has, of course, a Real Madrid logo on it, and I actually decided not to wear it for the first time in my life. I actually felt ashamed of what this club had done to international football. Pretty ashamed right now, and I think Florentino Perez, he will probably have to walk now. He resigned back in 2006. He came back in 2009. I think he will need to leave now. I don't really see any other way out. He needs to leave.
It looks like that everyone's going to be leaving slowly but surely. Just before we bring in our next guest, everyone who's watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Make sure to like the video while you're here. There's 15 of you watching on Twitter, so head over to youtube.com/AllForUnited. Join us there. Hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. We're going to bring in a Spurs fan, and let's just hear his disappointment that he no longer has a chance of European football. I'm joking. What are your immediate reactions then?
Yeah, man, it's for the best, man. It's for the best. I think.
Hang on. Sorry. I know I was joking, but he actually does look disappointed, doesn't he? Is it just me?
Yeah.
I'm joking.
No. I'm literally just explaining. I think it's for the best. When I initially heard about the Super League stuff, I was indifferent on it because I still think the concept itself is sound. I think a reform of the UEFA Champions League setup is required, and I think the bigger clubs are entitled to a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to the split in money. But I think the greed has consumed them so much that they've put this plan in place that, of course, excludes UEFA, who are the biggest beneficiaries of the Champions League. And in the process of that, they're trying to sort of harm core footballing values and essentially competitiveness as a whole. I think that rule about like 15 founding teams not being able to be punished for failure to qualify for a European spot in their respective leagues because they would just have a automatic spot in the European Super League was ridiculous. I think it's a joke. It's a shambles. It's like Spurs and Arsenal now. Like, we're the 7th best side in the league, and Arsenal the 9th best side in the league. Like, we've not earned the right to play in the Premier competition. And yes, fair enough. The competition is meant to be for the biggest teams, the teams that pull in the most money, that have the biggest names, etc., etc. But ultimately, that competition should be for the best teams performing amongst their respective leagues. And if you're not part of that group for that specific season, you shouldn't be rewarded for it in the next season. So for me, it had to go. It was either it went or they speak with UEFA and come up with a middle ground. But either or is good for me. And I think what we need to see now is we need to see the same pressure applied on UEFA, especially in the wake of this nonsense 2024 format with 36 teams instead of 32, one league, 10 group stage matches. I think the same pressure we put on the ESL for proposing such ridiculous reforms, I think we need to put equal pressure on UEFA for a revamp of the Champions League format. And I think we need to put equal pressure on some of the other pressing matters in football, like racism and even Qatar hosting the World Cup as well. Like, there's many atrocities or bad decisions that are made or are being proposed to be made in the football world outside of the European Super League that I think deserve ample pressure. So for me, football won't be tarnished with the proposals that the European Super League are putting in, but I think some wider thinking and the same level of pressure needs to be applied on the other aspects of football as well. I think the European Super League as well, the concept, I don't think it's going to go away. I think if you look at the Champions League 2024 format, it doesn't, apart from the obvious meritocracy aspect, where obviously in the UEFA Champions League you get it through your league performance, and the ESL it would be down to the founding clubs. The formats seem quite similar. Instead of 2 leagues in the ESL, it's 1 league in the UCL, and then you still play a heavy chunk of group stage matches that may disrupt the domestic campaign as well. So yeah, I think a lot still needs to be done after this.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I was a bit late. I was just blocking someone in the comments who said something very stupid. I apologize if anyone had to read that. It was disgusting what I saw. Yeah, so in terms of where we go from here then, because obviously we've all said that more needs to happen, more needs to be done because we've done half the job. Now we need to get rid of these founding members. Now, as I said, the Premier League wanted the clubs back, but they didn't want the executives, the ones making these decisions. Now, we've seen Woodward, we've seen Agnelli. Will Levy be next, do you think? Or do you reckon he just stands firm and stays there?
I'm not too sure because we've not heard any communication from Spurs. We've not heard any communication from Daniel Levy, so I'm not too sure. I think the Agnelli stuff, Juve have even come out and denied that he's resigned. So I think it's only Ed Woodward as of now. So I don't know what's going to happen with Daniel Levy, to be honest. I'm not too sure.
Go on, Jack.
I think the important thing to remember today, and Ed Woodward is the first to go, and I think many will go. But the important thing to remember is, these people, these owners of our football clubs, they try to do things their way. They try to take the game away from us, and they try to control the game that we'll love. But we've stuck our fingers up at them, and we've shown that actually it's brought us closer together. And that's the thing now. We've shown that we have a voice, and we have to use that in so many different ways, as Toby pointed out there. We've had an issue in football for years with UEFA and FIFA and all the issues there, all the money problems, and the Qatar World Cup, like Toby pointed out, the racism issue this year, which is absolutely disgusting. And there's no pressure on social media companies to stop that. And I saw people are summing it up perfectly. The protest outside Stamford Bridge tonight, where is the same when it comes to racism in football? And, for me, that is next. We've kicked out the Super League, and now we need to kick out racism from football and a load of other issues that we've got going on right now. But, I think, as I say, we've shown as supporters that this just brought us close together. And I think that is the monumental thing that we should take away from this evening.
And with this news that this one club could be up for sale in the next few days. Now, Tom, I'm going to ask you, because this could potentially be Kroenke washing his hands clean of it all. Where do you stand on this, and how likely is it?
Oh, we can only dream, mate. If that was the case, that it is Kroenke. I don't know. Is the case? I'm trying to think of all the clubs and their ownerships and who would be most likely to sell. I think that Man United are up there as a possible person with the Glazers, maybe being a really big part of this. They're obviously included in the main statement that came out originally. Kroenke's been very, very silent. I mean, we're used to it. We call him Silent Stan. Nothing's come from them. It's not even so far this evening with everything that's going on. We've heard nothing from Arsenal whatsoever. Only Hector Bellerin has tweeted out a quote so far, and some of the Liverpool players have actually released a joint statement now as well on social media, which is great to see, standing against it. So I think that if it comes down to Kroenke, I looked at this as kind of his end game, as I think many fans of other clubs will look at their ownerships and think this was the end game for them. And if this has failed, what is the point for them to stay on, accept the dividends that the club brings them anyway prior to that? And with Arsenal, you're out of the Champions League. It's still, there's a slim chance we can get back into it next season based upon the Europa League finishing. But with Arsenal, we've been making loss upon loss upon loss, season upon season, and it is not becoming sustainable due to the poor recruitment and buying and selling of players over the last decade. And Kroenke will look at that as a businessman, and knowing now that this big money, which they would have expected to have been coming in for years, because this is something that would have been organised for many, many years. The reason clearly behind why he refused to sell to Alicia Usman all those years ago as well, because this has been in the pipeline for half to a full decade easy. So it would make a lot of sense for him to now move on with his end game failing, as with the other owners too. But we've had this hope before and it's been quashed, so I'm not going to get my hopes up, because it's better to be to lack that disappointment early and then be surprised when it actually comes true.
Fair enough. And just while you've been reading that, there's been an official statement from Manchester United, and there's a quote here from Ed Woodward and the Glazers. Of course, this is originally a United fan channel, so everyone like the video while you can. I'm about to read this statement out. So it says here, Ed Woodward said, "I'm extremely proud to have served United, and it has been an honour to work for the world's greatest club for the past 16 years. The club is well positioned for the future, and it will be difficult to walk away at the end of the year. I will treasure the memories of my time at Old Trafford during a period when we won the Europa League, the FA Cup and the EFL Cup. I am proud of the regeneration of the club's culture and our return to the Manchester United way of playing. We invested more than £1 billion in the squad during my time here, and I am particularly delighted with the progress the players have made under the astute leadership of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his coaching team in the last 2 years. I am sure that with the changes we have made on field and to the coaching and football staff in recent years, this great club will soon be lifting silverware again. It deserves to. I desperately wanted the club to win the Premier League during my tenure, and I am certain the foundations are in place for us to win it back for our passionate fans. Our world-famous academy is flourishing again with 34 players progressing into the first team since 2013, and it has been a pleasure to watch talents such as Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood and Axel Tuanzebe flourish in the first team environment. In the years to come, the club's production line of young talent will continue to push established first-team players for their places. The competition bodes well for the future. We've also established Manchester United women, and their progress is further evidence of the demand for success at this great club. The last 16 months have brought so many unique challenges, and the club's work in the community and around the world during the COVID-19 pandemic has been heroic. The financial impact on football clubs has been severe, but United have been one of the most robust and resilient in the face of extraordinary financial pressures. I would like to thank United's passionate fans for their support during the good and bad times. I know this has been a challenging period in our history, but your support for the team has never, ever been in doubt. Finally, it has been a pleasure to work with so many magnificent, talented and hardworking people. Now, all well and good. Here's the Glazers quote from Joel Glazer. Ed Woodward has served the club with great distinction. On behalf of everyone at United, I would like to place on record our sincere thanks for his tireless work and dedication. His contribution to the club has been massive, and he'll always be welcome at Old Trafford as part of the Manchester United family. So it looks like they're trying to make it sound as if it was all amicable. Fabrizio Romano also reported that supposedly this was part of Woodward's plan already. I'm not sure I believe it. I'm not going to lie. I feel like it's got to be to do with this. Instant reactions. Whoever wants to jump in can do. What do we think about what do we think happened behind the scenes? Anyone could jump in.
It's that moment where we're like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I just think when you look at Manchester United, sorry, I'll throw it to you a second. When you think about Manchester United and the situation that club was in, they and Liverpool were touted as the two spearheading this whole idea from an English football point of view. For it to have collapsed so calamitously and so quickly after it was announced, it makes sense that one of the main drivers behind this being Woodward, and we heard Alexander Seferin, of UEFA coming out and basically saying and calling these guys snakes, both Woodward and Agnelli. It makes sense for him to move on. I can understand the whole plan as well. Arsenal have experienced that themselves when Ivan Gazidis basically became the CEO when towards the end of the Wenger era, he employed the people higher up at the club and then left for AC Milan very shortly afterwards and claimed this was the plan all the time. So it's not new. It's happened before. But yeah, feel free everyone else to jump in. Sorry.
Just a quick question. I know we were talking about Woodward, but I've seen an interesting comment there from Ugly Bear about the stadium built by Spurs. Just because we're on the topic of terrible management and terrible planning. Toby, what do you think of that then? Because obviously your club is still trying to pay for that stadium, and conceivably this was one way of doing that if they were entering the Super League. I assume that's why he made that decision. Where do you think your club goes now? Like, where do they get those funds from?
They get the funds from the stadium being open. I don't agree with that statement that it was a stadium that we didn't need. Could the timing have been better? Yes. Did fund towards players have to get cut the way it did? No, it didn't. Did Daniel Levy hold us back on the pitch for off the pitch matches? Yes, he did. But this notion that the stadium wasn't needed is a complete farce, because you look at the money that we've been able to generate whilst we've been in the stadium. You look at the spend that we've had since we've moved into the stadium, and it makes sense. It shows you that this is a stadium that we needed to be able to compete financially and to actually fulfill the demand that we needed as a fan base. So in terms of how we go about paying back the stadium going forward, we just need the stadium to be open. We need it. If it's open, it's going to make us money. It's a foolproof plan. it's a stadium that can generate that generates a lot of money off match days, off the gate receipts. It's a stadium that generates money off goods sold inside the stadium as well. It's a stadium that generates money off of random sponsorship deals as well. And it's a stadium that we still need naming rights for that could be worth a significant amount of money. So to cut a long story short, Spurs pay off this stadium by getting the stadium open and getting fans in the stadium, because that's what drives the revenue.
Oh, fair enough, and hopefully we're not too far away from that. I don't know who this is, but hello. I don't know. Anyway, Harold, I'm going to come to you next, because with all the Perez stuff and with obviously what we've seen from Woodward, what is the reaction currently of Real Madrid fans? Give us the vibe of that at the minute, and will there be any kind of revolt against Perez at the minute, or is it a sort of wait and see what happens situation?
I think I think you can't really compare it to Man United and Woodward and Kroenke and Arsenal and stuff like that, because I think Florentino Perez, he's like the the granddad. Well, he used to be the dad, but now he's like 73 years old now, so I guess he's like the granddad now in Real Madrid, and a lot of people still love him. And I think the socios, the members and the fans are quite divided actually. I read a report earlier today that kind of shocked me actually, that about 33% were actually in favor of the Europa Super League in Spain across the nation. And I was quite shocked actually. I mean, 33%. So I think the backlash in Real Madrid will perhaps be less than in Man United, for instance, because I think he's still a popular man. But I mean, so I think if he decides to go, it will be because he felt that he has actually failed, and he will decide to go. I do not think he will be forced out. It's quite different actually in Spain and in Madrid compared to in England. Like in England, you have like Boris Johnson going hard out, demanding, that these clubs will withdraw. But in Spain, you actually see the courts in Madrid trying to defend the Super League. So it's quite different, actually.
I think that's because of a wider issue, though, in football, isn't it? Because we're seeing La Liga has probably been hit more than any other league by the coronavirus pandemic, and their two big clubs, Real Madrid and Barcelona, both really, really struggling financially. And for me, Florentino Perez has wanted this for years. He's made his decision selfishly to do it now because Real Madrid are desperate. And I think, football fans don't forget, and football fans can't forget. And, there's going to be a lot of pressure, certainly from Premier League fans on our clubs and getting rid of our owners. But, it's a different situation entirely for Spanish football fans right now. And I think the future of your league is a bit worrying for you lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, Real Madrid, I think they lost about 150 million last year. But they decided then to sell players for about 120 million. So they recovered the losses by selling players. Normally they would perhaps spend like 200 million on players. This past year, they've been selling players just to basically keep the books, balanced. But what we're seeing now is sort of like they now understand that they do not have the same TV deals as in England. The money the English clubs are getting from their TV deals, television deals, they are worth a lot more than in Spain, and they are seeing their clubs being sort of left behind. And when you have COVID, it ruins the game in Spain, basically. But at the same time, you have like Florentino Perez dreaming about signing Kylian Mbappe. So it's not really trying to survive. It's just trying to keep on signing the best players in a way. So that sort of makes me, well, if it was to survive, I would have perhaps understood the point of view. But for me, it's more like, well, they are surviving now. They just need to sell players for like 100 mil and don't pay 200 mil for players next year. They are fine, this club. So it's not really about surviving. I think it's about always trying to be on top when they aren't really on top anymore. So yeah, I guess so.
No, fair enough. Jack, I do want to ask you, because Liverpool fans are one of the very few fans that we've actually seen force a set of owners out of a club. Do you see that happening with FSG now?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I, for one, I'm not going to forget this. You know, for years, I've stuck up for FSG. They've been under criticism for certain things. They've made mistakes, but I've often praised them for their U-turns. But, you know, looking at all this has made me think about things even more. You know, they tried to furlough staff. They U-turned when there was a huge backlash. They tried to trademark the word Liverpool, stopping local businesses from using the word Liverpool. That's what these owners like. And they get away with it time and time again when they apologise. And, you know, as I say, a lot of the time they've had people turn on them, but I've supported them. But for me, with this, there is absolutely no way going back. And, you know, I think I don't stand alone in saying that. Everything our club stands for, they went against with this decision. And, you know, I mentioned at the start of this video, you know, those 3 slogans that have been used: "You'll never walk alone," is Liverpool through and through, and then "This means more and unity is strength," are 2 slogans that have FSG slogans and have been slogans for Liverpool since FSG have been at the club, and they've gone against that completely. And even now, when we've seen clubs make U-turns, our players standing together with a really strong social media stance. And every single one of them posted the same statement on social media. We saw Jurgen Klopp last night, I think, summed it up perfectly. He came on national TV and he criticised his owners. There was talk of him resigning. He said he's not going to do that. He is responsible for Liverpool Football Club, and he will stand up for the players, stand up for the fans. And look, there's a picture of a man by my shoulder, Bill Shankly. He made this football club what it is today. And that decision from FSG try and put us into this ridiculous competition has gone against everything that man stands for. And for that reason, I can never, ever back them ever again. And I hope that the reason they're taking so long to bring a statement forward and why they're pulling out of the European Super League is because they're currently putting the club up for sale as well.
An interesting development, which I think could be very common in the teams that haven't officially pulled out of it yet. Tribus Watches, Liverpool's official sponsor, they've officially dropped the club. The statement that they've released is, "As the official global timing partner of Liverpool FC and a family of dedicated lifelong fans based in the city of Liverpool, Tribus," I assume that's how you pronounce it, "cannot support the move by the club's owners to break away into a new competition, the Super League. Our values are at the forefront of everything we do. Therefore, we will be withdrawing from this partnership. Football belongs to the fans and unites us all. It was never intended to benefit the few." Instant reactions to that then. Do we think more sponsors will and should do this to make more of an impact?
They should do, yeah, absolutely. You know, we spoke before about fans' voices alone aren't enough. We've seen a lot of people talking about this, and, you know, the more the better. We can't let people get away with that. You know, we've spoken several times in the last 48 hours about the things that are happening in football, and this has been the way it's going for years. But this is the worst decision that anyone's ever made in football. And, you know, overnight, football was nearly completely put in the mud and completely ruined. You know, these owners, these multi-billion-pound businessmen, try to turn our sport into a franchise, and it's as simple as that. And, you know, the fans have proven what we can do, but we need to stand with other people. And, you know, as I said, this is the beginning for me, because there's so much more for us fans to do.
Toby, I want to ask you, because we've sort of spoken about the main men behind everyone, but we haven't really spoken about Daniel Levy in terms of whether you actually want him gone. Because I know the majority of Spurs fans do want him gone at the minute, but there are a few who think, you know, he took you to a certain point and he made some good decisions. Where do you stand on him at the minute?
I'm in the middle, to be honest. I think I was Levy out after he sacked Pochettino, but and whilst that decision won't sit right with me, I can't deny the good work that Daniel Levy's done at Spurs since he's taken over. But over the last decade or so, the stadium aside, that is, he's made a lot of poor decisions to counteract any good decision on the pitch. It seems like any good decision that he makes on the pitch is counteracted by 2 bad ones. When Harry Redknapp needed new players and we were linked with Tevez in January 2012, he brings in Louis Saha and Ryan Nelson on a free transfer. when AVB wanted João Moutinho and co after losing Luka Modric, he gets in Clint Dempsey and so on and so forth. When Pochettino was screaming for more and more signings after we had just challenged for a title unexpectedly, he brings in a deadline day transfer in Moussa Sissoko. It's either plan B or plan C or plan D options with Daniel Levy, or no option when he didn't give us a player or give Pochettino a player for basically 18 months. So he's made a lot of bad decisions over the last couple of years, which are slowly catching up with him. And in all honesty, for me, the testing period for Daniel Levy will be this summer. He's rectified his mistake by sacking Jose Mourinho because he shouldn't have hired him in the first place. And it's now what he does with Enoch this summer in terms of the right footballing structure in place and their attitude to buying and selling players. If that doesn't change this summer, I will be Daniel Levy out because there's only so much you can take. It's not to say that I don't appreciate the work he's done, but it's to say that under your tenure, we're not progressing, and we need to progress. So that's where I stand with Daniel Levy.
Tom, you said you had something to say?
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised, Toby, that you're of that mind. So I'd love to kind of press you on the point, to be honest, about kind of how you're like in the middle. Because for me, anyone that was any executive, any owner, any person behind this movement, behind this idea to break away, to create a closed league, to go into a situation whereby it disregards kind of the spirit of the game, the spirit of competition, openness and sporting side of it. For me, and I know it's very easy for some to might think for an Arsenal fan to say this because we've wanted the guy at the top to go for a long time. And I want to apply that context to the situation because I know that Daniel Levy has, of course, progressed Spurs to a level which they weren't at previously in the Premier League. But I'd love for you to kind of elaborate a little bit more as to why this decision and why them going for the Super League and breaking away from everything that we expect from a football club is not enough yet for you to say, I don't want them gone yet, sort of thing.
He's a businessman, isn't it? He's a businessman. And he's wrongly, he's trying to act in the club's best interest. But what he failed to realize is as a result of him acting in the club's best interest, he's directly impacting the direction that football may potentially headed. So it's a ridiculous. Some of the rules that they were proposing were ridiculous, but the concept is not bad. For me, the concept is not bad. Yeah.
Why not?
I don't think the concept is bad at all. I think the Champions League, you've literally see the Champions League format now. The new format is essentially a watered down version of what they're trying to promote.
Would you say that if you were an Everton fan or a West Ham fan or a fan of any of the other teams, do you think, that aren't involved?
What? What do you mean?
Would you say that it's a good concept if you were a fan of any of the other clubs that aren't involved in the Super League?
Well, yeah, I would, because as I said, the concept is sound. They're trying to make the elite competition better. Yeah, they're trying to make the elite competition better, and the sides who are bringing in most of the revenue, they want more. They want a bigger piece of the pie. They're entitled to that. I have no qualms with that. Whatsoever. As I said, where it gets ridiculous is the rules that they're trying to bring along with that concept. The fact that you can't be disqualified or relegated from the competition, even if you don't qualify for a European spot through your respective leagues, that's ridiculous. And that part needs to be put away. But I promise you this European Super League concept is not going to go away. As I said, UEFA have literally proposed something similar in their 2024 format. So this is why I'm saying the concept itself is not too it's not too dissimilar to where football is headed. Yeah, it's not too dissimilar to where football is headed. And when I look at it from an Everton and Leicester perspective, yeah, The only glitch is literally that stupid ruling that teams can't come up through their league performance, and the founding members aren't able to be relegated or punished for underperforming.
Just on your point that it's probably not going to go away and then it will come back. Harold, you just dropped a message into the private chat about something from Spanish news. If you want to share that.
Yeah, I'm just reading some reports from the Spanish radio stations, and they're basically saying that the Spanish clubs are still going strong. They are still supporting the project. They believe that Man City is the only club basically who's officially said that they're out, and they still believe it's going forward in Spain. So I'm just wondering if, is it really true, or could it perhaps just be an exit strategy? That's what I'm thinking right now, because basically, if they are still holding strong, they can then have some dialogue with UEFA and perhaps gain some influence or even some money, I guess. Because if they all collapse right now, they are more likely to perhaps be sanctioned. They could be disqualified from the next year's Champions League. If I were a member of the UEFA, I would definitely perhaps consider actually to disqualify these clubs from the Champions League next season. But if they keep holding strong now for a few weeks, they might actually bargain something. So I'm just wondering if its plans go ahead or if it's dead. Really, I'm just worried right now.
What do we think of that then? Because we can all applaud the teams that have pulled out. I know Manchester City just put out a statement confirming that they have pulled out. If this news is true that these Spanish clubs are staying, and if UEFA do bring in some kind of sanction, do we think that will deter clubs from joining it? But then won't that also reduce the pool that the Super League can attract? What do we think happens then? Because if they're not going to give up, what clubs do they bring in?
I'm not sure myself now. I'm just wondering, like PSG and FC Bayern in Germany, these clubs would be natural replacements, I guess, for Man City, but they've already stated that they're not joining. So I'm not sure. I'm just not sure right now.
Maybe Ajax. I don't know.
It's just too small club.
I can't see Ajax joining. I think the thing for me is that we've seen today already, and I'll just get the fact that now, but I think UEFA have announced today that they're going to be changing something else as well, and they've offered the clubs more money, and that's my worry. Now the owners have actually got what they wanted, and this has been a big power play from them the whole time. So it was Mohamed Bouhafsi, sorry if I've butchered his name there, but he tweeted earlier saying UEFA is preparing a counter-attack in the Super League. UEFA is working with the English Investment Fund to come up with a new LOC that would have a starting budget of 4.5 billion, which could go up to 7 billion. So therefore, they are giving the clubs more money, which actually is what they want, isn't it? So, it's a big step forward, but as I say, there is still so much to do because it's still showing the greed in football and that money talks.
Yeah, but this is what I'm trying to say. There is greed in football, and UEFA are beneficiaries of that, are they not? So this is the point I was making. The right level of effort has been and pressure has been put on the European Super League, but that same pressure needs to be put on UEFA. That same pressure needs to be put down on all of these corporations. The same pressure needs to be put on BT and Sky, who were trying to charge fans £15 a month for pay-per-view subscriptions many months ago. Because what I don't want people to do is pretend as if the European Super League have just rocked up and are the only party that are trying to ruin football, when we've seen football become more money focused for years and years and years and years and years now. So that's what I don't want.
It's for me. It's the fact that these 12 clubs thought they could go behind the other clubs' back and just break away and do it themselves. For me, you're very right, mate. UEFA is part of a wider problem in football, and they are just as greedy. But I think decisions need to be made as a unison, as a collective. and not
I
just
agree.
12 clubs breaking away from the rest and doing whatever the fuck they want because they think they're bigger than the rest. And that for me is the issue. You know, I spoke yesterday about, you know, the smaller clubs who haven't been protected throughout COVID. You know, we've lost Bury, we've lost Macclesfield, and that's just in English football. And, you know, we're going the right way to losing many, many more. And, you know, the big clubs should be helping protect the smaller clubs and also themselves, not just breaking away and doing their own thing and making the sport an American one. They need to do it together because that is what this sport is all about. That is what football is all about, and we as fans need to ensure that that's the case now.
I think Fraser's comment is spot on as well. I mean, he mentions the 6,500 workers that have died in Qatar building, you know, the infrastructure for the next World Cup. He's right. People do not care until it involves their own club, and I think that's what we saw today.
There you go. The Qatar one is ridiculous. Like, people want to talk about how the European Super League is threatening to ruin football and stuff. And yes, they have every right to say that. Of course, you have every right to say that. But World Cups are usually played in the summer. World Cups are usually played in different continents every single time. And yet, for the first time ever, we're having a World Cup in winter. We're having a World Cup that's going to disrupt many football players' regular season. We're having a World Cup in a country that didn't even have any footballing infrastructure. We're having a World Cup in a country that, as Fraser mentioned, reportedly had 6,500 workers that died building infrastructure for that very same World Cup. So you have to ask yourself, why is all this effort going towards this specific country hosting the World Cup when it's such an inconvenience for literally many core footballing principles that UEFA apparently stand for? And then the answer is clear. It's money. It's money. So as I said, the same energy that I've seen for the European Super League, where people are like, oh, they've ruined football. Give me that same energy for all the other aspects. It's that simple. Because people want to pretend as if money hasn't been running football for years. It has. The same Chelsea that people are praising, saying, oh, yeah, Chelsea, great. They pulled out of the European Super League. First of all, they signed up to it in the first place. And prior to that, they came and dominated the Premier League. Their owner came in 2003, 2004, mega rich, just buying his way to the league title. So it's always been a money thing for years and years and years now. So people just need to wake up and just apply the same energy to all aspects of football, not just the European Super League.
Jack, I've just seen you've dropped a message in about Spurs. What's going on?
I've just been sent a message actually on Twitter from a Spurs fan saying that Spurs apparently are refusing to pull out. They're considering all options. This person goes on to say,
what source is that? Sorry?
Just a Spurs fan. They're saying it's widely reported in the Spurs media. I've not seen anything myself. It's just something that I've been sent. But, you know, I think it goes into a bigger picture. Tom pointed out himself that, you know, they're in a lot of debt with their stadium. They've just sacked Jose Mourinho too. We know that, you know, they're still paying Maurizio Pochettino. So I
paying him.
Not anymore.
No. He was on gardening leave, so that ended the minute he got the job at PSG.
Okay, well, that's fair enough, but it's not been long since you've stopped paying Maurizio Pochettino. We know Mourinho has his big clauses when he's sacked, and, you know, it's not been released yet, the amount of money that Spurs will have had to pay, but I'm sure it's a lot, Toby. And, you know, I think the thing is, I know you said then you're not completely going against Daniel Levy yet, but I don't think he's got much time, because you're going to see now, you know, Arsenal fans turn even more on Kroenke, as I've said myself. Many Liverpool fans have turned on FSG, and this is the final straw for us. United fans have been Glazers out for years. This is going to push them over the edge completely. And I think, you know, Spurs and Daniel Levy, it's going to get nasty.
Yeah, I think it will. And I think Levy just has to do the right thing now and back out of it. It's not the right idea. For me, it was either, as I said, the UEFA and these 12 clubs in question come to a middle ground. But if that's not obtainable, then pull out of it, because the idea, the many of the rules that they're trying to push are literally just going to cause such a crazy ripple effect on football that it's not worth it at all. So yeah, just pull out. pull out. Just take the L, pull out, reconvene, and then let's open a wider discussion on how UEFA can make the Premier Elite competition better and can make it and can accommodate the bigger clubs better.
Tom, you look like you're about to jump in a minute ago.
Yeah, jump off a cliff at the moment. This probably everything that's going on this evening. Yeah, it's really as this. I mean, last 48 hours has pretty much driven all us fans to the edge. At this point, it's been an absolute. It's been really draining, to be honest. I mean, even the fact doing, obviously we're all involved with our own kind of media stuff as well and channels and stuff, and it's been a really kind of depressing time to know and not know where football's really going. I think is really key, and have that feeling of unknown and detachment from the game. But from an Arsenal perspective, in terms of the ownership and where we're at, I think that people need to be really careful right now. I mean, I'm already regretting putting up a video earlier saying this is done, it's over, because of how kind of fragile this situation seemingly is. Just as City have gone, and because we're seeing now reports of Spanish clubs holding firm, we're seeing reports that maybe Chelsea aren't as kind of solid in their withdrawal as that we thought that they were a few minutes ago. I think that we need to be careful also of kind of the reports that are coming out, because I theorised this a little bit earlier on today that I think that there are a lot of there's been a lot of fake reporting going on to try and destabilise the situation, to try and put doubt in the club's minds, to try and put doubt between the clubs themselves, to make them think that not everything is as they use the word solidarity in their statement, to make them think that that word is not actually as resonating throughout these clubs as it really is. And maybe that has led to, and maybe that has really had a part to play in the whole Man City pulling out officially now. But the fact that we've not seen kind of a domino effect rapidly does fill me with a little bit of concern, that we're not seeing other clubs as rapidly as they all announced it decide to drop out. The fact that we're seeing these reports about Spanish clubs holding firm as well. So I would really say watch this space, because I think that you may see a kind of a bit of a power struggle and a situation where clubs are going to be a bit scared of the fact of pulling out too soon, and then if it does carry on, feel that they've been left out completely. I'm going to have to shoot off though, Karthik, but I really appreciate you having me on this evening. It's been really great to meet all of you and speak to all of you about this and hear the different opinions. So I really appreciate it.
No worries. We're going to wrap up the show anyway. So all four of you, thank you for jumping on. And obviously everyone go follow up. I know we're a United fan channel, but we support everyone. So jump into the description. All their links will be there. So make sure to check them out. Cheers for coming on, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you.
Right, that was the show. That was a huge show talking about the European Super League and how it is possibly on the way out. As we said, we've discovered that the Spanish teams are holding strong. There's Manchester City who've officially pulled out. There's a few teams that haven't actually pulled out yet. Ed Woodward has been sacked. Well, not sacked. I mean, I hope he's been sacked. He's resigned, but I'm pretty sure he has been sacked. And it looks as though we've had a footballing win. Now, when I say footballing win, I mean us fans together, we've made change. Now, let's not underestimate that. We went from almost abandoning our clubs to now having their almost viruses being cleaned out of them. Now, please, to those teams that have pulled out of the Super League, have made these changes, to Manchester United fans who will now be celebrating Ed Woodward's departure, don't forget what these people made your club do. Don't forget what these people made you do. They nearly made you give up your entire lives, your first loves almost. Don't let them forget, and make sure you don't forgive them for it either. Manchester United fans, there's a protest on Saturday at 3:00 outside Old Trafford by the Trinity statue. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to make it there, but please, if you're in the area, join in. Don't do anything stupid. Just go, show your support. Make it a peaceful protest. We're not there to cause any trouble. But Manchester United fans, if you're in the area, 3:00 on Saturday at Old Trafford, outside the Trinity statue, well, next to the Trinity statue, I believe that's where the protest is taking place. Ed Woodward is gone, but we're not done there. This is not over yet. The chief executives, the vice chairmen, they're leaving the club, but we need to go a step higher. This is where we decide, right, we either take out all of them or give up. Because we can't do it half. We can't do half the job. It's just no point. You need to make sure that we nip this in the bud and we make sure this doesn't happen again. We need to reclaim our game. So don't stop. Don't stop talking about it. Don't stop protesting it. Don't stop being loud, because the louder you get, the more these people will get annoyed. Now, you can argue that, yes, they can turn around and go, then this isn't for you. Why are you protesting? Or we don't care about you. We want the world fans. But if we protest, if we made this change today, then we can make more. The government stepped in today. When have you ever seen a Tory government work hard for working class football fans? It just doesn't happen. We can make change. So let's make more change. We need to go a step further. Take them all out. This is turning into almost a footballing civil war, and we have to treat it like one. But we can't incriminate ourselves in the process, because there'll just be no point. It'll all have been in vain. So I implore you all, don't forget what they did today. Don't forget what they made us do. They made us almost abandon our fucking football clubs. No one does that. We pledged our lives to these clubs. We spend our money at these clubs, our hard-earned money at these clubs. Don't let them forget that they made us almost abandon them, because that's how much we value what they do. That's how much we value their beliefs, the history of these clubs, no matter who you support. We all came together. We made this happen. Now I need you all to come together and make even more change. Take our game back. Let's try and make some permanent change. And then when the Super League nonsense is put to bed, we can go after the likes of UEFA and FIFA, because there needs to be a huge change. There needs to be a fundamental change in this game. But that is, of course, for another story. What I will say, though, on the end of the show is thank you to all the guests who joined us today. Everyone who's watching the video, thank you so much for joining in. It takes great pride in me hosting this show, and All for United allowing me to host this show. And the big part of all this is All for United can still carry on producing content, talking about Manchester United, if the Super League does die, and if Manchester United do pull out of it. And if they do, with Ed Woodward gone and the rumours that possibly one of these clubs may be up for sale, if that club is Manchester United, we might be in for a big few months. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here. Make sure to head over to all the channels that appeared on the show today, and make sure to head over to Old Trafford on Saturday at 3 o'clock for the protest, and make sure we can make some permanent change. And let's not forget, they tried to take our game, and we made it very clear, don't mess with our game. Don't mess with it. I'll see you in a bit.